Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this very special panel event in support of International Women's Day. I'm Laura Sanjurgo. I'm the Commercial Director for the Male Division at Whistl.
And I'm Fliss O'Hara, Managing Director for the Fulfilment Division at Whistl. Together, Laura and I are really proud to be co-sponsors of Women at Work, which is a key part of the EDI strategy here at Whistl. In 2024, we formed a working group known as WOW, the Women of Whistl, with the aim of reinforcing that everyone is equal regardless of gender. Our focus is on building confidence, supporting development, and showing women across our business that they can grow, succeed, and thrive. And through the WOW group, we work to highlight the challenges women may face in their day-to-day lives, approach them with positivity, and help others understand their impact and how we can all play a part in creating meaningful change.
So with that in mind, we couldn't think of a better way to kick off International Women's Day 2026 than by bringing together some truly phenomenal women from across logistics, trading and mail media. Today, you're going to hear about their experiences, leadership insights and some practical inspiration. And we hope these conversations will stay with you long after International Women's Day. Thank you again for being here and we hope you enjoy today's discussion. Let's get started. So to kick off, can I ask our panel for each of you to introduce yourself and share one defining moment that shaped your career? Ruth, if I could start with you, please.
Yes. Hi, my name's Ruth Waring, SCILT, Fellow of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and I am a transport and compliance consultant. I'm self-employed. I've been working in this wonderful profession of logistics since 1989, and unusually I'm one of the few people who actually chose to pursue a career in logistics because I had a fabulous holiday job at university and I thought absolutely this is what I want to do, and I've never looked back. So I've been employed, I've been self-employed, and at the moment I also sold a business, which is a very interesting experience. At the moment I am a self-employed consultant working with hauliers, manufacturers, retailers, and also I am a volunteer. I'm the founder of Women in Logistics UK, and I'm the current chair of that organisation as well, which I'm delighted to say is supported by Whistl and is going from absolute strength to strength.
Thank you. Leslie?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I'm Leslie, I'm Deputy Managing Director at City Post Mail. At City Post Mail, we're letter experts. We manage direct mail campaigns on behalf of brands in all sectors, offering services from data, creative, print, fulfilment and delivery. We partner with Whistl for delivery of our DSA and door drop volumes. We have over 410 actively trading accounts. We're an £87 million business with 59 employees. I joined City Post in 2011 and today I assume the role of Deputy Managing Director. I look after the day-to-day running of the business. I've got full P&L responsibility and I'm tasked with the strategic growth plans and commercial success of the business. I'm delighted to share City Post are a certified great place to work. We're ranked 17th in best workplaces for women, 16th overall, having been shortlisted from the top 100 best UK workplaces. We're 33rd for best development and 19th for best workplaces for well-being. We're a member of Stronger Together and Mind Up and are partnered with a printing charity which promotes well-being and emotional support for employees. We're also Investors in People certified, and following this framework since 2017, we've recently been recognised as Platinum, placing us among the top 2% of companies globally. I'm naturally beaming with pride over this, but marketing are due to formally announce this more widely next week, so I'll trust you guys to keep this to yourselves just for now. I specifically mention these as I think some of these accolades are key to my personal success in the business and also the success of City Post Mail as a business, as I have strong beliefs in investing in our people, employee engagement and developing the leaders of tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leslie. Jo?
Hi, my name's Jo Blake. I've been in media for nearly 40 years. Started off as a PA at Saatchi's in the 80s, which was all about shouting and champagne. It was very decadent and a bit Mad Men. I've been at larger global agencies, and currently I'm at MI Media, which is a media independent. So I head up investment. I'm an investment trading person. That's what I love doing, making money. And I'm also the head of people as well. So I have two jobs. I have one that's lovely and kind of like I help people, and I've got one that I make people make money for our company. So there's a bit of a yin and yang there, I think. I feel that I've got a defining moment, if you want to hear about it. When I was at Saatchi's as a PA, it was very shouty and a bit nerve-wracking. And I was asked to get a horse into the boardroom for a pitch. I know, but people used to tell you and bark stuff at you, and you just were expected to go off and do it. And I was 22 and had no confidence. And obviously there was no internet, so I used the yellow pages. And I did manage to get a horse into the boardroom for a pitch. No animals were hurt. But I think defining from a long time ago was about having a can-do attitude. I genuinely believe anything is possible. I believe that when I ask people for help or for advice or ask people for favours, people in my own company, media owners, I'm always surprised if people say no, because I actually think people, I'm always expecting people to say yes. So I think a can-do attitude can take you a long way.
Fantastic. I mean, a horse into a boardroom was not what I thought was going to be covered on the panel this morning, but I mean, absolutely brilliant. And last but absolutely not least, Michelle.
Yes, so hi, I'm Michelle Sarpong, and thank you very much for having me. I'm currently head of activation at Seven Stars, which is the largest independent agency and female-founded by Jenny Bigham. So what does head of activation mean? So basically, I look after all the activation team across search, social, AV, audio, you name it, SEO, even ops as well. So make sure that those teams kind of deliver what our clients need. I've been in the industry for about 18 years now. Started off at, Essence MediaCom, which was the biggest agency at the time. I worked for numerous amounts of other networks as well. One of my defining moment in my career, I think for me, there's been loads of little defining moments, but I think it comes down to the people. I've been lucky enough to the places I've worked to have amazing allies who've kind of helped me along my kind of journey. So I'd say the people are the defining moment rather than the actual timing.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Some inspiring stories there, and I think the horse is going to go down in history, Jo. I love that story. So if we go
shouting at you, just saying, "I need a horse in the boardroom," just shouting at you.
What
and
do you
go
do?
out and go as a 22-year-old. Oh, all right then.
I think it's amazing. I really do. I think it should happen more often in boardrooms.
Yes, me too. In pitches, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you to go back to the beginning now, and just have a think back to the start of your career and what first drew you into the industry that you work in, and what's kept you here. I've got a slightly different question for you, Ruth, because you've already alluded a little bit to that. So I'll go to the others first. So Jo, if we start with you, if you could share with us what drew you to the industry and why you still work there.
I fell into the industry. I left school at 17 in 1983, and I got a job in a music and singing telegram company as a PA. I did perform singing telegrams, but in a kind of innocent way. Quite often I'd be dressed as a gorilla somewhere in southeast London on a Saturday night to do a gorillagram. However, I left there and I got a job as a PA at Saatchi's, as I said, so I fell into it. I didn't know about it. In the 80s, people had heard of Saatchi's. I think media has made me who I am with those kind of early experiences. I think the things that keep me in it are I love media. I'm not cynical about it. There is good and bad about media, but I love it. I love new things, new opportunities. I like talking to my clients. And people, there are probably 95% of people that I've ever met in media are really fabulous and lovely. And I feel that it's given me the confidence to be who I am, really. So I definitely think that media is changing. It's fast changing and fast moving, but you still always have to be relevant and you have to move with the times and learn new things. And there's lots of rules to break in media, and I quite like that too.
Brilliant. Great answer, Jo. Michelle, can I ask the same of you?
My story into media, I've told a few people this, but it was actually Fabric, the nightclub, that helped me fall into media. I was actually walking past MediaCom at the time, because it's in Farringdon, kind of that way, and then walked past the agency, and I was like, oh, that has media in it. That sounds interesting. And I've always kind of been interested in media. I think I worked in a cinema when I was a teenager, so I've always been into kind of film. I just did media studies as A-level as well. So I've always kind of had an interest in media, but I didn't really know what sphere I wanted to go in. Did I want to go to the film route? Did I want to go around the TV route? But walking past MediaCom, I was like, that says media in the name. Let me apply. So literally the next day, went, searched MediaCom, saw there was something called WPP, emailed them. I was like, do you have any jobs? And they were like, send your CV. Sent my CV, went on loads of interviews, and then literally ended up working on P&G, which is obviously one of the biggest advertisers in the country. So very lucky. It wasn't all planned. But what's kept me here, similar to Joe in terms of it is about the people. I'll be honest, there was a point in my career which I was looking to leave the industry, because I think I'd gone through a kind of journey where I'd be working at places and actually wasn't getting recognised or promoted. So I kind of was like, actually, is this industry for me? Is the space that people are creating for people like me? But lucky enough, I did end up going, I'll give it one more go, end up at 7 Stars, and actually I've been lucky enough to work with people who value me and provide me with opportunities. Hence why I've worked in planning, I've worked in trading, now heading up activation, which I never thought I'd be head of a team ever. But those opportunities have come and working in the right place. So yeah, that's a bit about my story and what's kept me here.
Amazing, thank you. Leslie, could I ask you the same?
Again, probably a bit like Joe, I sort of fell into post as an industry when I graduated university. I'm from Edinburgh, as you can probably tell from the accent. I think I'd lived at home while I studied at university, and when I finished, I just wanted to move away, get some independence. So I was sort of applying for a whole host of different jobs, media agencies, marketing. I'd done a business degree, so they were all sort of around that type of thing. But I was applying everywhere: Manchester, Newcastle, London. I didn't have a specific place in mind, and ended up getting this job in London with a postal brokerage called Post Switch. So I've literally spent 19 years working in post, which is not necessarily what I dreamed of at 3 years old, you know, when people want to be a fireman or a nurse or something like that. But yeah, I just loved it. And probably similar to what you guys are saying, I think, you know, good people, it's a nice industry, nice space. But yeah, it definitely wasn't what I thought I would do. And it was an interesting one for me. That first job is actually probably my career defining moment, which I didn't realize I didn't mention earlier. Because I started there with a founder. So it was really just me and this founder of a very small business. By the end, before I left to come to City Post, there was a team of sort of 8 people. So I was really lucky, actually, because I feel like that first job gave me a lot of experience, everything at a small scale, but of all different aspects of a business, sort of sales, marketing, finance, credit control, and all the different stresses of a business. It was probably some of the best and worst experiences of my career. The founder had a bit of a personal crisis towards the end of my tenure, and sort of went off traveling the world and was uncontactable. So at 25 years old, I was running this little business of 8 people with the financial accountant calling me saying he's chartering private jets and we're not going to have enough money to make payroll. And at 25 years old, I can honestly tell you it was, it was a steep learning curve, which I think armed me with a lot of the skills I have now. And I think I probably wouldn't be in the role I'm in now without experiences like that. So it was interesting hearing Joe's story about, you know, being barked at to get a horse into the boardroom, because I think actually sometimes being put under those pressured situations sort of forces you to learn very quickly. But yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I'm a little conflicted about it. One of the best and worst experiences of my career, I think.
I think we all have those though, and I agree. They do shape you for the future, don't they? Because they have to. Okay, so Ruth, obviously you've told us that you chose to go into the transport and logistics sector. So I guess the question is, what's kept you here, but also what experiences have you had that have built your confidence to stay there and succeed further?
One of the things I was extremely fortunate was that when I started as a graduate trainee for what's now DHL, there were 4 transport managers, traffic managers managing the lorry drivers. And very unusually for 1989, one of them was a woman. And what I found, which was really interesting, was that the others were either graduate trainees or they were lorry drivers who'd been promoted. And that had always been the traditional route for lorry drivers to be promoted to supervisors and then transport managers. But this lady who was called Sarah, I'm still friends with her now, she had actually gone from the office admin to transport. And I realized at that point that this was like the trodden path. So the concept of the trodden path is an interesting one. So if you are a lorry driver, it's easy to see the path through the undergrowth because somebody else has walked it. But she had actually got the machete out and got rid of all that undergrowth for everybody else. So actually, one of the things I've really learned is establishing a trodden path so that other people can follow. And it's the first person that does it, it's really hard. But as soon as somebody else has done it, then it becomes the trodden path and it's easy for other people to follow. But in terms of why I've stayed, I think it's one of those industries that it gets into your blood. And I have, when I sold my business, I went to work for a technology company because they bought an app that we developed. And it really became clear to me very quickly that I was only really going to fly working in transport and logistics. It's in my blood. I'm a person that operates really well in the environment. I'm very much the red brick in the Insight bricks, be brief, be bright, be gone. It's how I like to be dealt with and how I deal with other people. I haven't got time to mess about. And I just find I found my tribe within logistics. Very early on, I decided it would be really good to have a women's group, but I knew in 1989 that would be difficult in terms of the way that it was going to work, but B, also it could affect my career. So it was only really by the time I was it was 18 years ago that we set up Women Logistics with LinkedIn, and we were able then to no one could stop us. And I think that was a really interesting moment that we didn't need permission, but we also didn't want to put blocks in our own way. So we just said, right, with LinkedIn, we can just do it. No one needs to give us any money. We don't need permission. We can just go ahead and do it, and we can't be stopped. And indeed, that has proven to be the case.
Absolutely.
I think that's really interesting as well, Ruth, because just picking up on the next point, because it's fair to say that the industries that all of us work in, which is quite varied for the people on the panel today, that we have all historically at one point or another been seen as quite male dominated. It's just more of a question for everyone, really. I'm keen to understand how you, in the respective industries, have seen representation and inclusion change during your career. Because there's been, as I say, across all of the industries, I imagine that there's been quite a development on that side. I mean, Leslie, can I come to you first on that one?
Yeah, definitely. As I say, I've been in post now for 19 years, and I remember going to some of these sort of black tie do's that still go on now. It would just be a sea of men and the odd woman. And it definitely has shifted. 100%. It's better than it was, but it is still male dominated. I think also, which I know isn't the question, but I think it's also an older generation business and sector. Like, I think we need to drive more youth as well into these sectors, because again, a bit like me coming out of university, it's not a sector necessarily people naturally know and therefore want to get into. And I think there's more we could do as a sector to drive that as well.
Yes, agreed. Jo, is there anything that you could share on that?
Yeah, I mean, there are more women. We can see, that from a CEO or MD level at top 20 agencies, there are more females, and that's great. I'm going to talk slightly about women in trading, and the reason that why Michelle and I are on that is because actually in the trading and investment arena in agencies, it's still largely male dominated, like heads of, if you like. We've got nearly 90 members now of women in trading, i.e. women who are trading. And actually, there's a need for it. There is a need for these groups to mentor, to champion, and to help women. I do feel that you have to see it to be it. And actually, if women can see other women as CEO or head of investment, that's great. But I think that more help needs to be needed to guide women at a more junior level, to kind of guide them and help them into those kind of careers or, positions. So I think we are getting there, but I would suggest that, to your point, Leslie, when you go to a black tie do, and there's a lot more men there, it's yes, there are.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you, Jo, as well. I think also we have to give people the courage and the motivation to recognise that they can be accepted. I think that the whole second generation gender bias is a bit of a thing. So even if you work in a business who is not discriminating against women, there might be women in that business that think, oh, I could never get that role because I'm a woman. And we've got to get people out of that mindset. We've got to forge a pathway, like Ruth said, to show women that, it can be done. And if you have that can do yes attitude, if you want that role, you can have it regardless of gender, but you just need to go for it and not feel like there's anything holding you back.
Yeah.
And I think, and we've all been to those black tie do's, and as I say, I think you're right, Leslie. As much as it's better than it was, I think it's definitely still the case when we go to some of them now. And as part of the Women at Whistl group that Fliss and I set up 18 months ago, we actually did a survey out to everyone that identified as female within the Whistl business. And one of the absolute key themes that came up was imposter syndrome, and it is rife across, and not just within Whistl. We've done some research outside of the business across other industries, and it is a topic that comes up time and time again, is that women believe that they can't do something and men believe that they've already done it, and there's a huge difference between how people approach it. But I mean, taking that into account, I mean, there clearly has been progress, and it's welcome progress from all of our perspective that things have changed. But what are the challenges then that we're still seeing? What challenges do women still face today within the industries that you're in? Ruth, can I come to you on that one, please?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges is that particularly haulage is still incredibly old-fashioned, and we're finding even the younger people coming through, the younger men, they are usually lads of dads, so they sort of take on the dad's attitude. And even if they're young and they've been brought up in a world where, equality is normal, they kind of, it's easier, it's a comfort zone not to employ women, because obviously women are different, they're challenging, they're going to reduce the groupthink that's going on already. And people don't like that. It's uncomfortable. As human beings, we find it really difficult. So I think there's a real challenge. I mean, haulage is still incredibly male dominated. And still it's only 2% of lorry drivers are female. So we've still got this massive, kind of old-fashioned way of doing things. So I think one of the other issues is it's always when woman has a second baby, that's always the crunch point. The first one, she comes back to work, she makes it work. And then by the second one, people are going, oh, she's had another maternity leave, this is costing us a fortune. And then that sort of the attitude towards that woman changes, and her attitude towards going to work changes, and that's often, unfortunately, where the talent walks out the door. And that's the bit where, as a profession, we really need to take that on and realise the way that we treat women while they're on maternity leave, and the way that we handle maternity leave generally is, please don't say a swear word when somebody tells you they're pregnant. Say congratulations, because that's her life. She can't subcontract having that baby, and however much she might want to. And I don't think men get that. And we also have this thing with women in logistics. Men come to our events, they love them, and at the end they say, oh, it was brilliant, but I did feel a bit awkward. You're like, yeah, hello, that's my entire career. And it's only when you feel that sense of awkwardness, sense of being in the exact minority, that you really get it. And I think a lot of this is educating male allies to actually understand what it is, the lived experience of women, because there's an awful lot of, oh, just get on with it. And, you all need to come to the party. We don't get women applying for these jobs. But it's got to be meet in the middle. It can't just be the women's problem.
Yeah, sorry, just to build on that, Ruth, because that is spot on. I think even in the advertising industry, it's such a major issue. Like, I haven't got kids myself, but I've got loads of friends who do. And it's just that the moment they announce they're pregnant, they become invisible. Like, they're just like, oh, they're not going to be here in 6 months, or they're not going to be here in like 9 months, which I think that has an impact. And it's kind of the impact on their career, like even before they go on maternity leave, during maternity, when they come back, like in terms of it seems that when mothers have babies, the ambition dies. But that's just opinion of like someone, the sweeping statement, like, oh, they've got kids, they don't care about that role. And I think that's something that we definitely need to change in terms of these biases and opinions that people, and it's not just males, it's females as well, that have these opinions in terms of like when, you know, mothers go on maternity leave or they have children and all of a sudden they're kind of, every priority changes. It's not fair. And another aspect of something that we're seeing in our industry is that where kind of like there's challenges for women is the emerging kind of industry. So, you know, AI is a big topic across everything, but it seems like only males have a true understanding of AI, even though it's brand new to some extent. AI has always been there, we just called it something different. But that's brand new. So actually there's a lot of male voices around the topic about AI, but women have just as much of an input and knowledge around AI. And we kind of saw that in different industries. I think Joe talked about it before in terms of with women in trading, in terms of like trading was very much male dominated because that was a space that they occupied. It was emerging at some point in the past. So I think we just need to be very careful around the challenges we're facing are kind of, you know, sometimes just very much based on opinion, not fact, and statements that have a massive implication on all of our careers. So yeah, fully agree with Ruth.
I agree, and I think for the women themselves as well, it's a challenge, right? They're worried about what's going to happen if they take that career break. Will my job still be there when I come back? Will I be allowed those responsibilities? And then even when you do, because I'm fortunate, you know, I work in a really inclusive business, and when I went off at 36 to have a baby, which makes me a geriatric mother, by the way. They were very supportive, but even I question myself, why did I wait till 36 to have a baby? You know, and there was no indication anyone would treat me poorly here. And actually I was treated incredibly well pre and post baby. And we're, like you guys probably, we're doing a lot of work to try and enhance maternity policies, paternity policies, flexible working, right to switch off, etc. But, you know, it's difficult. And even once you have the baby, you're trying to juggle being an awesome mum, being an awesome woman, being an awesome professional. You know, it's difficult, and at times you feel like you're letting the side down in some direction.
I'm really passionate about banishing mum guilt. I've never experienced mum guilt, so I decided to do a little video of my kids and some of the people's kids talking about what it's like to have an awesome mum that works in logistics.
I love that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, really good idea. And my kids were like, my mum's amazing. She helped me get a job. And I spent loads of time with my grandparents, which was great. And I loved going to nursery, and it was all brilliant. So mum guilt, don't bother with it.
Brilliant, that's great advice, that, Ruth. I think we should clip that up, just that sentence.
I certainly think it'll go down well in the WOW group. It's a hot topic, isn't it, Laura, regularly? And you know, I think it's difficult because there's challenges from every angle. And when a woman's in that position, they do feel like they can't win because they feel they're letting someone down, and it's about trying to strike the balance. Okay, I'm going to do a bit of a quick fire now, if I could, just to get some thoughts. So, just immediate things that spring to mind. How can organisations better identify and develop female talent earlier? So, just things that come to mind straight away. So, Leslie, if I could start with you.
I think giving people space and opportunities. So often when people are in role, and I think that ties back to that imposter syndrome. It's like, this is what my role is, this is what I'm paid to do, and they just plod along and do that role. I think giving people projects, challenges, inspiring them to go out with their comfort zone, testing what they're capable of, giving people visibility at a senior level. So something we try and do here is empower people that if they do handle a project, they might then present that back to the board or the senior management team to give them visibility with senior leaders that maybe wouldn't ordinarily see some of their skill set and some of their capabilities. So mentoring and coaching programs, I think, are good. And that sort of follows what Ruth said about forging a pathway and guiding others as to how they can do that. And I think employee engagement generally across a business is a really good one for me. You know, not micromanaging people. If you're paying someone to do a job, give them space, give them autonomy and trust, let them deliver in their role, and motivate them to do a good job. And largely, if you do that, you know, people will be passionate about trying to do a good job and trying to deliver. And I think that drives the right attitude across the business.
Yeah, some good points. Ruth, any builds on that?
Yeah, I just think, enabling women to feel confident is a massive, massive thing. So many women do struggle with this, and again, it's sort of seen as a woman's problem, but actually, it's the businesses that are missing out on that amazing talent. So, having things like the WOW group where you can have a safe space to talk about the challenges, but also just that whole women empowering women. Women Logistics have an amazing WhatsApp group. And it's a mixture of, I need a supplier in Scotland. Does anybody know any software that does this? To I've got a difficult boss. Anybody got any tips on how to handle this situation? And that kind of giving people that confidence is massive. So joining things like Women Logistics is big, but also the wording on adverts. If you're going for an internal promotion, it's great to see that word that says, you may not meet all these criteria, but we want to hear from you if you think you've got a spark that's going to work. And it's just that facilitation to enable women to, yes, I don't tick all 10 boxes, but we all know that men, if they tick 4, they're going to go for it. And women feel they've got to tick all 11 to even apply. And we need to get over that, but we've got to meet women halfway. We can't say this is just women's problem. It's got to be the businesses as well, sending out the right signals. My pet peeve, can I just share, is those things on the wall that are pictures, they're framed football shirts or rugby shirts that you bid on when you're drunk at those gentlemen's dinners. And if I see them on the wall, I just think immediate, this is a testosterone-fueled nightmare. And just think about the vibe that you're sending out in your offices. Are you actually sending out any sort of inclusive vibe? Or are you just sending out the vibe that women really aren't welcome here? And it's only by talking to women that you'll get that feedback.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is that there are women that are in sport as well, so don't ignore us.
It's always male rugby shirts.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a football shirt, to be fair, but yeah, I agree.
Maybe we'll see the Lionesses shirts up there signed one day,
Yes,
or something like that, for a little bit of equality.
Let's hope so. I see netball shirts yesterday. So we are making progress.
Excellent. Michelle, Joe, have you got anything to add on that point?
I think that when junior women come into an agency or whatever, that or men, in fact, they are taught, their craft skills of their job, and that's what they concentrate on for a couple of years. I think that actually having a kind of two things. I'm a massive advocate for mentoring. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I see the benefits and the successes of people that have had that, someone championing and challenging them to be able to be what they want to be. So early mentoring in companies, and maybe like a leadership program. And I don't mean like an MBA or Harvard thing, but I do think that those conversations with women at an earlier stage, into 1 or 2 years, to try and talk to them and get them to understand what kind of things they need to be doing, thinking about to get up here. Now, of course, that's a long way, but actually they're not just the concentrating on your day-to-day job and being good at that, of course, but actually earlier understanding. Pardon?
Internal networking.
Yes, yeah. 100% that, yeah. And it's very big in agencies. When I always used to get like an appraisal going, yeah, you really need to like impress the CEO. It's like, I'm an exec. How am I, I'm not going to impress the CEO. That's not going to happen. And yes, so internal networking, I agree. And more of those kind of internal kind of programs might be helpful.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of covered everything. I think the key thing is just champion decisions we make around women. So we were talking about like maternity, etc. Like here was generally the first 8 to 7 stars where I saw someone get promoted while they were on mat leave. I was like, that is, I've never seen that before. And I was like, but that's something that like, I think obviously Jenny was a bit like, but why wouldn't you? But I was like, actually it's very rare. But I think this is like, perpetuate that narrative of like, actually this should be normal. It should be something everyone should be doing. And also I was talking to another friend who, she was really nervous. She got a job, she was pregnant at the time, and then she was just like, do I tell them, do I not? Told them, and the first thing the male interview said was congratulations. they held her role open. It's stuff like that we need to hear, certain stories that then empower women to be like, oh, actually, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There are, male allies that can support us. There are agencies or companies that have programs that are really supportive of women, just to give us a bit of hope. And shared learning is always a good thing, right? In terms of, we don't always get it right at, the first go. So it's like sharing different initiatives that everyone's done. So I think more cross-learning from companies and industries can only make it better for us.
And building the confidence. I think when Joe said earlier about having that can-do attitude and saying yes to everything, and if you're challenged with something, to do it. I think if we can support women to get rid of that imposter syndrome, don't wait to be offered a seat at the table. Take the seat before it's offered to you. Show what you're capable of, and then you will be promoted. Rather than, and I think sometimes women in particular will wait to be offered the opportunity.
Yeah. I think that if you've come from, if you've not worked in that environment or our environment, even an office environment before, and you're a grad and you're straight from, wherever, you don't really know that you are responsible for your own career.
No.
You don't wait to be promoted. The people that are promoting, the people that are wanting are pushing on your door as a manager to say, what is my next step? What do I need to do? But people almost have to be told that because they've never been in that situation before. And I think I was thinking, well, you've got to be responsible for your own career. But then if you step back and think, it's like, well, you wouldn't really know that. People think, well, I'm just going to do a good job here and everyone will notice. But that's not how it works.
And then
I think that's what Ruth said. It's the responsibility of the business as well to give people those tools and skills, let them know that those things are possible, coaching, mentoring, and bringing those people on.
We've also got the issue that women are seen as pushy, men are seen as assertive, and that's another problem because a woman that is knocking on the door saying I want a promotion can be seen as pushy, and that's unfortunately the way it is. So just equalising that. Well, if a man does it, asks for a car, he gets a car, but why don't the women get it? Well, they never asked for a car. We shouldn't have to ask for a car, So it does get very difficult when you've got double standards, which we know still exist.
Yeah, I think that's the point, to call it out. I think after personally working in the industry for 18 years, there's got to a point where I'm just like, I'm just going to call it as it is. And normally, when you call it out, actually, no one has defense for that. So actually, that's progress in it. Actually building that confidence to actually say, actually, as like Ruth clearly said, like men are looked at assertive, we're looked at pushy. It's like, or we're looked as emotional. And even though most of the men I work with are more emotional than I am, but like we're looked as emotional and they're looked as like, quite, I don't even know what the word is, but they're strong in their narrative. So I think we have to call it out. Like it's our responsibility as well. Obviously we don't call it out until we get fired, but there is ways of actually just the comparisons you make says it all, right?
Mm.
We could sit here and talk to you all day, actually. I can't believe that we've been over half an hour already. But if we were to stop and take on board everything that we've discussed today, and I think we've covered quite a wide range of topics already, if you were to give one piece of advice to a woman starting their career now, what would it be? And Michelle, can we come to you first?
What would it be? I think don't be alarmed about what's gone before. I think we sometimes get really hung up going, this is like male-dominated spaces, etc. But I think, give yourself the opportunity to thrive. And you've got the role because you deserve it. So take the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, fantastic. Ruth?
I think be yourself. I know it's an old cliche, but I've spent a lot of years trying to be more male than I actually was. And I've only really come into my own power as I've got older and learned what really works, really stepping into the fact that I'm much better doing the doing than managing people. That's what I'm really good at. So that's what I'm going to do. And just own you. There is only one you. And, people will really celebrate the fact that you're different and you do, you wear the clothes that you want to wear and you say the things that you need to say. And that's an easy thing to say and it's much harder to do, but it's so important because there is only one you.
That's good advice. Jo, anything to add?
I would get yourself a mentor, have a can-do attitude and don't follow all of the rules.
Especially when it comes to bringing horses into the boardroom.
Well, that's it. Because if you don't follow all of the rules, I'm not saying you break rules and then you're sacked, but I'm saying people that think a bit differently, do things in a different way, are quite often people that are seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leslie?
I agree with all the things all the ladies have said, and I think to embody that, if you're a woman who's aspiring to grow in your position, find someone in that business who's going to champion you.
Yeah.
Seek out someone who inspires you, who champions you, and surround yourself with people that see your potential. Don't make time for toxic relationships. Don't allow negativity to drain your positivity. Just believe in yourself and find someone who appreciates you and champions you in the business.
That person can be a man. That's the important.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's some great advice there, and I think we can all relate to it. It's a challenging environment, but certainly, even I've taken things from today. So, thank you all for all your input. I think there's been some amazing conversation today. So just as we start to wrap up and we reflect on International Women's Day, which was full circle back to why we wanted you guys to join us today, I think what I'd really like to know is what's one message you would give to anyone listening to this to take away from today's conversation? What's the one key thing you would like them to take away? If I come to you, Leslie, because you're first on my screen.
That is a tough question.
That is.
I think so. Say that again to me.
So people who listen to this, we're going to send this out to our network. What's one key thing would you like someone to take away from what we've discussed today?
Don't if you've got imposter syndrome, dump it. If you believe you can and you will, set your sights on what you want to achieve, and you can and will get there. There's nothing stopping you. There's nothing holding you back. That saying "man up" annoys me. I feel like I'm here to tell you, women up. Because we're like the lady said, we're not weak emotional basket cases. We're strong, powerful, confident, driven individuals, and we can get to wherever we want to be.
Great advice. Ruth, if I come to you.
Yeah, I'd say be the change you want to see. When I started in this profession, I saw lots and lots of men at networking events, and I just thought that's not the networking events I want to go to. So I set up Women in Logistics, and now we go networking, we do social events, and we do amazing professional development events. So I have made it happen. So if you want to be that person, then just make it happen.
Amazing, thank you. Jo?
Oh, it is a hard one. I would say that you can do it and you can make changes. Have a great attitude and, be resilient. Sometimes you'll feel rubbish and you're not getting anywhere. You are, but we've all felt that, everyone in every walk of media. So, yeah, be resilient, get back up. You can make changes and be the person you want to be.
Jo, I've taken that away from you today. If you can get a horse in a boardroom, I strongly believe anything is possible.
Look, anything is possible, Leslie, because I believe that people will just say yes to me.
I love it.
And I'm with you on that, Leslie. That's absolutely my takeaway. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And on that point, Michelle, do you want to have a final thought?
I think the one thing I want people to take away is that your uniqueness is your superpower. I think for so long we've kind of let the narrative of being a woman be a negative thing. And the fact is no one's lived your life, no one's experienced what you experienced. And so you'll always be an asset. Like you'll always be an asset in every room that you're in. So remember that your uniqueness is your power.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone that's watched. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. I think for me, what I've taken away from is that some part of it is a little bit of comfort in the fact that we all have the same feelings. We've all, despite different industries, different subjects, different challenges that we're facing, we're all in this together. We all have the same thoughts, the same things within the businesses that we're working in. And to know that you're not alone in that is comfort in itself. And I think for me, the final parting point that I'd like to make is everyone on this panel is inspirational. And I think, and I can't remember who made the point earlier, is being in the roles that we're in and the things that we're doing, even panel discussions like this, it will be inspiring somebody, male or female, that they can do it. And I think we need to be having these conversations more to be able to continue to inspire the next generation, because as you say, Leslie, it is difficult, particularly in male, which obviously you and I both sit within. It is difficult to get the younger generation into the industry. So anything that we can do to support that is a big win from my perspective. Fliss, I don't know if there's anything from you just to finish off.
No, a big thank you from me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've loved hearing all your stories. And I completely agree, Laura. I think everyone has something inspiring to share. And certainly our WOW group will take a lot away from this. So thank you so much for being so open, and for the laughs, and for the stories that we will remember.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you
thank you to
very
the other
much.
ladies. Lovely to meet you virtually and learn from your experiences too.